Welcome to Not Your Mother's Housing Market, the podcast where we dissect and discuss emerging trends in real estate because a 21st century market requires 21st century strategies. I'm Katie Keaton, your Southwest Washington realtor with Realty One Group Pacifica, and I am joined by
Gabby Graves from Synergy One Lending, NMLS number 2190032.
But I'm not just joined by Gabby. We are very excited because today we have our first ever guest. So welcome Monica Nichols. She is partial owner of LinkedIn Design. Linked Design Group. Oh my gosh, I said that to Wayne earlier where I said, I know I'm going to say LinkedIn.
Yep.
Linked Design Group in Longview, Washington. So hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so today Monica is going to be telling us about current design trends. She's going to be answering a lot of the questions that we have about how her business runs, how it fits into the real estate market, and she is also going to answer the burning question that has building up since episode 1 or episode 2 of the podcast.
Episode 1. This has been from the beginning.
1 of the podcast. Is wood paneling coming back in?
Yes.
I am so excited to hear her answer.
Can't wait.
Yeah, we were discussing it before we turned on the cameras. And we decided to hold the argument until you guys joined us. So without further ado, Monica, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your business and how you got into design?
Yeah. So I started in 1997. Actually worked for a couple of different companies. One in Portland, and then ended up moving and working at Interior Resources actually for a number of years. I was there for 14 years.
Okay, nice.
From there, and I guess so to back up, how did I get into interior design? It's kind of an unusual story for me. I babysat for a gal when I was 12 years old who did windows for Nordstrom.
Okay,
And
very
she
cool.
was super creative. And my dad was a graphic designer. My grandmother always painted. So I always had that kind of creative vibe.
An artistic flow to you, yes.
But it was in the days pre-internet, pre-cell phone. But she had
Those were the days.
Yeah, but she had all these design magazines
when you had to be
around
an original.
The house. Yes,
Yes.
She had all the home decor magazines, all of those laying around the house. And when the baby was sleeping, what do? I'm reading through whatever I can find. So I'm scouring these design magazines, and I did that for summers after summer. And I just remember one day feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. And she was always doing interesting things in her home. I mean, she did some wild things. I remember one time she painted her leather couch.
Oh.
Spray painted it.
Oh. We're going to add that to...
Didn't really work out so
okay,
well.
I was going to say.
No, not a high recommend.
Okay.
But she always just was doing very creative things. And it was just awe-inspiring to a kid, right? And I just came home one day and I said to my dad, I think I want to do interior design. And he's like, yeah, try it. And so he said, take some shop classes, do the, kind of figure out the technical part of it, the hand drafting. And I started doing that even in junior high and high school. I took all of those classes and never changed my mind. I just always loved the idea of interior design. My parents were very good at letting me explore and do my own things in my own room and so let me be my own creative, and so that's kind of how it went. And then just got into as my career progressed, I went to school in Portland, to design school down there. And like I said, worked in Portland, worked in Vancouver a couple years. And then at one point I decided, I think I'm ready to do this on my own. I had been doing interior design, I think at that point, for about 20 years. And 26 years now. It'll actually be our 7-year anniversary this October with Link Design Group. So it's been a fun journey. I've enjoyed it.
That is so cool.
Very
the
cool.
origin story. The origin
Yes.
story. I love that.
And how much of an impact those younger years made on you.
Totally.
It makes me really think about,
Yeah.
what kind of hobbies am I getting my kids into
You just
now?
never know. Yeah,
Other
you
than
never know.
youth sports,
Oh,
like we talk
gosh.
about, right?
Yeah.
Because
Don't
sports kind of
even get us
end
started.
after. But yeah, what kind of hobbies can I get my kids into now that's going to help influence their creativity and
Right.
their passions when they're older? So I like
It's the
that.
butterfly
Yeah,
effect.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you had babysat a different kid, you
Right?
might be a car mechanic or
I
something.
know.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have been doing this for, I think we did the math, it was 26 years, and working on your own with Link Design for 7, you said?
Right, it'll be 7 October.
So
Nice.
who are your typical clients, and what is kind of, what do you help them with?
So our typical clients often, a lot of them are busy professionals. So folks that they know they need to update the kitchen, or they know they want to build a new home, but they don't have the time to do the research. They don't have the time to do it themselves. That's why people call interior designers, because we do have the resources. We do have trusted professionals that we work with on a regular basis. We have the knowledge. So that's probably our main clientele. We do have folks that just even some that, you know, maybe they're retired, but they've been saving and now are to the point where, man, we want to do this, but we want to do it right. We don't want to make mistakes. And that's probably the biggest thing I think that we can bring to the table is we can help save money because you're not backtracking. You're not making mistakes in the process. We've done our process for years and we know how it works. We know the pitfalls and really can kind of direct people so that you can avoid some of those costly errors. And we do that interface between contractor and homeowner, because a lot of times the contractors will be in the house, hey, where do you want this outlet? I don't know. You know, they have no idea where to put it. But we do all of the detailing from the beginning. And so, and walk with them so they never feel like they're in it alone. If they don't know the answer to the question and they're asking them, they call us. And that's kind of, that's why we're there.
So,
Very
yes,
nice.
I was making some faces when you said about the outlets, because my husband and I had a house built 5 years ago. I think we moved in 4 years ago. And I do not have a single outlet in my primary closet, which drives me insane. We only have one strip of outlets in our bathroom.
Yes.
It's like, why did I do this? The window placement, terrible. If I had to redo it, I'm like, why did I put I didn't put the windows anywhere. It was just like, okay, here's the drawn up plan, and
Yeah, they're already there.
Yes.
they're already there, and I was not paying attention.
Right.
So, so I definitely, that spoke to me. And kind of like the decision fatigue, I'm sure you help people with as well.
100%.
Yes.
You know, like you said, when you were babysitting, there were magazines you could flip through, but it was like there was kind of a limited
Supply,
amount of inspiration to draw from.
Yeah.
Now with, you know, Pinterest
Yeah.
or just the internet at large,
Right.
there are
It's
so
overwhelming.
many
Yeah, for
decisions to be made that it is extremely overwhelming.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing I think that I'll often tell folks, that my goal is really to kind of narrow down the multitude of options, because it can be very overwhelming. And once you make one decision, the other decisions have to tie in with that. And so it does get easier, but they can kind of tend to go off track and start to go, okay, well, maybe we do this room this way and this way, and when now you've got a circus on your hands.
Yeah.
So kind of making sure everything funnels together and works together cohesively, but also helping to just make sure that it's not overwhelming.
But I'm sure there is
Yes.
like an order of operations where it's like, let's pick this first, because then everything else can tie into it. Where it's like, if
Right.
you're doing it yourself, I'm like, let's pick the, I don't know,
Right.
sink first, which
Right.
makes zero sense.
Right.
Well, and for me personally, I tend to like little pieces of different styles. And so designing my own area could become a circus really quick and be a mess, because I like things from different, I don't know, I like a little bit of a traditional look, a little bit of
more
a modern
eclectic.
look. Yeah. And so, but you have to somewhat pick a
There
category
still
and
has
stick
to
with
be
it.
balance.
Yes. And there has to be a flow throughout the house. So
Right.
So
Yeah.
this was not one of the questions, but just because I'm dying to know, what do you usually lead people to pick first?
So Oftentimes I like to tie it into the architecture if
Okay.
at all possible.
Okay.
So if you have a craftsman style home,
Okay.
there should be some elements that tie in with that. It doesn't have to be to the nth degree classic 1920s bungalow, but it would be nice to kind of have at least some clean lines. And so kind of tying it into the architecture, I think, is one of the easiest ways to start. Beyond that, like if we're looking at just a living room furniture setup, oftentimes I'll start with the floor. So I'll start with the floor, the area rug, and then build up. It's easier to kind of get that piece that has the pattern, the print, everything that kind of ties everything together in the area rug, and then pull the textures and the colors for the sofa, the pillows, the drapery that work with the area rug. So a lot of times from that floor up, if it's furnishings, but definitely kind of keeping in mind for sure the architecture and making sure that the styles are jiving. I think it's still doable to do eclectic and bring in different styles, but you do have to just kind of make sure that it doesn't get too far afield that now everything looks so overwhelming that your eye doesn't have a space to rest. So it doesn't, I love eclectic style. I think it's one of the most fun to do. But it is one of those that you have to kind of know what you're looking at. And you're looking at lines, you're looking at color, you're looking at texture. And you can mix those things. They don't necessarily have to all be in the same style, but just how you're picking those and putting them together so that the overall canvas, so to speak, is cohesive at the end. And it can be super fun, interesting, and different. So,
Yeah. Gabby's ideas are percolating.
I know. We need to go shopping.
Yeah.
Okay, so how much of your business is renovations after a purchase? So maybe a new homeowner or an existing homeowner, like you said, who's been waiting to make this renovation, compared to people who renovate prior to selling?
So probably the majority is folks that have bought a house and then maybe live there for a period of time, want to update it, want to do new kitchen, new bathroom. That's probably more our niche. We have an in-house contractor, Butler Construction, that does all of our remodels. We're really good at kind of putting those spaces together. Lots of kitchen and bath remodels, but we'll oftentimes turn that into it's not just a kitchen, right? It's the kitchen, it's the great room, it's the powder bathroom off the kitchen. It's oftentimes maybe even the main floor of the house by the time we're done with it. So I would say those are probably more. Those projects are definitely more our niche. But we do also get folks that will come and say, we're thinking about selling in a couple years, but we just can't live with this anymore. What are some options? And so sometimes it could be kind of coming in and looking and saying, okay, if you're going to be here for 2 years, 5 years, whatever that is, how much are you going to try and get out of the house at the end? Because you don't want to get them to a point where they've just now put 30,000-40,000 and they're not going to be able to recoup that. Right. So we definitely can kind of help direct that. But I would say for the most part, that's not really as much our niche. We will get folks that will say, at least those short-term ones, because those tend to be, you could go buy an LVT at Home Depot, or you could do something like that. That's going to update it, give you what you need to kind of turn around and flip it. Where our niche is more for folks that tend to kind of stay in the home. They want to make the home theirs. But there are sometimes people that come in and they say, we're not, and this is always one of our questions, is how long are you planning to be in the home?
Okay.
Is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? And we don't always know, but we always start with that question because, again, where we're headed with the budget really kind of dictates how much we're going to suggest them putting into it. And I think that gets into one of your maybe next questions about just in terms of how much you're putting into it, how much you're going to get out of it. I forget now the one that you had.
Yes, no, exactly. How much does further resale factor
Yes.
in? So it factors in obviously to budget, but do you ever find it factors into like personalization, or do you ever find
Yes.
that it does inform like how wild they go with things?
So I'm a big proponent to live in your home because you love it.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
always
yes.
going to suggest don't live in a beige house if you hate beige because you think that is the thing that is going to sell your house in 15 years.
I saw something the other day that it was like a TikToker who does crazy design of her home and, you know, films the process. And she was doing a TikTok about, you know, how many times she's heard people say, like, don't do that, it's going to ruin your resale value.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was that if you're basing what you're doing on resale value, then you're basically renting from your future buyer.
100%.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. Because one of the huge perks of owning your home is that you could personalize it.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree. And we talk about all the time, you know, the quality of life that goes into it, because it's like there are so many decisions you can make, whether it's, is it the right time to sell your home? Is this really like the maximum time that maybe you should sell or you should do whatever? But it's like you have to balance that with the quality of life.
Right.
So I'm also a huge proponent of that. Even as a realtor, I'm like, live in your house. Don't be renting from your future buyer.
Exactly.
Well, and our last episode was about people who now feel these golden handcuffs, if you will. They refinanced into really low rates. And so they feel like they are strapped to a home that maybe they didn't intend to be their forever home. So I think that updating your home and personalizing it to make it fit your needs and be comfortable to you, that's going to make a big difference. That's going to maybe change that starter home to something that feels a little bit more like a forever home.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a way to
release yourself from the golden handcuffs.
Right, there you go.
Or now take them off, but keep them, and now they're just like a valuable asset you have, you know, the gold market way.
Optional
I don't know if
handcuffs.
that's true. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, that is a huge point. So we were talking about the golden handcuffs last time, which is basically exactly like Gabby said. People have such great interest rates that now they're like, oh, well, I planned on selling in 2 years, or I planned on selling in 5 years, but that doesn't make financial sense anymore. So this home that maybe was a starter home, maybe now I am going to put a little bit more into the design of it to be happy staying here longer.
Right. And we found that a lot through COVID too. I mean, folks that were just not going on vacations, and now, you know what, this house is driving me crazy. I can't stand this kitchen for 5 more minutes. And so, same kind of idea. And I think it is just one of those things that if you can make your space that you live in every day as comfortable, as functional as possible, it's going to enhance your whole life. It just does. It has a way of having an effect on your emotions, on how you feel when you come home. It just does. It affects our mental health.
Yes.
So.
I agree.
Oh, I
totally
totally
when
agree.
you walk in and you're like, I really. So, okay, I'm
house is
throwing my
not
husband
organized.
under the bus right now. This is me throwing my husband under the bus. So, and I think this will lead us into the fun portion where we're going to start talking about design and maybe asking you some questions about further design. But, you know, everything for a while was gray. And when we built our house, that was the hugest sticking point. Like, I'm so easygoing. My husband really wanted a huge say in everything we were picking. And for the most part, he got his way on things. The one thing I did not want was gray floors. I was like, again, exactly how I believe that wood paneling is going to be in the next 5 years fully. I also believed even 5 years ago when we were planning our house, I was like, gray floors are going to be out next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years. Gray floors are on the way out. And somehow I ended up with gray floors. And I, most of the time it's fine. Actually, no, I always hate it. But I will say though, and this is something I always hate it. He knows. I will say though that this is one other thing that having a professional is great for, because it's like, when you're at the store and you're holding up a sample,
never pick it up at the store. Never.
Okay, because that's exactly
the
what we
lighting
did.
is off at the store.
And he was like, okay, come on. It's like kind of gray, but it's pretty brown. And I was like, yeah, okay, this is like pretty brown. It has brown undertones.
Right.
It's not what I wanted, but it does have brown undertones. They laid that floor down.
And it'll look completely different.
It was gray. It was totally gray.
Yes.
And so, like you said, it affects your mood. When I'm in a good mood and my husband's not making me happy, I'm like, oh, whatever, the floors, that's fine. When I'm mad at him, my first thing I do is I look at the floors and I'm like, and I hate these floors.
Yeah, right.
And I hate these floors too. But yes,
hysterical.
so okay, would you say, we'll lead into like the new fun stuff, gray is mostly out, would you agree? Yes.
It is in the fact that I think the biggest mistake that people make with gray is they do everything gray. You can use gray, and I will say this about anything. You can use just about any color. You can use any texture. You can use those things in the right quantity, and that doesn't mean that those things are off.
Okay.
But when everything is gray, you've got gray walls, you've got gray floors, you've got a gray sofa, you've got gray curtains, it's not going to have what you need to make it feel comfortable, to make it feel cozy. You need contrast, you need texture, you need some of those other things. So you could play up your gray floors by eliminating, I don't know what your walls are.
I have grayish walls. They are more beige, I will say, but they're grayish. But I do have gray cabinets. I have a gray couch because I'm not good at design. And it was like the one thing that I was like, okay, the one thing I like about the gray trend was that it was easy to pick things because it's like, gray, black, and white.
It looked fresh, it looked light, it looked bright.
But I'm like, I don't know how to bring in warmer tones because like brown and gray, like how do you mix
can
those
do it.
You can.
I do it all the time.
Like a bright
I need to have
blue
Monica
couch.
come over. I had a bright blue rug and it helped, but we just recently got rid of it.
Yeah. No, you can mix. You can definitely mix. And it has more to do about the tone of the color. Obviously something that's super light. You don't want to, maybe mix that with the brown that's maybe redder or, trying to find the right, so that maybe the brown wood tone or maybe it has sort of a gray undertone to it, but it has still a warmer feel. It's going to warm up the gray. It might even pull some of those wood tones that you thought you saw. It might pull some of those out. So when you put those warmer tones with the grays, a lot of times you can start to get it to almost be a little bit of a chameleon. It can definitely change a little bit.
Good to know.
And color. I mean, just even doing a color or doing a contrast. Do a dark navy blue cabinet. Do or a green. The greens are super popular right now. Like a forest green, like your shirt. Something like that.
I do
with
have an
the
island.
green.
Paint the cabinets to the island.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could do something like that.
Okay. I love how this is becoming a consultation for me. You can see how Monica works.
Yeah.
Okay. I will look into that.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
another question. So you know how it's kind of a debate, or not even a debate, it's happening, that with fast fashion, trends are cycling so much faster. Do you find that to be the same thing? Again, with the internet, it's really sped up everything. So our interior design trends are also speeding up.
Maybe some examples, matte black paint on walls or fireplaces. I'm tempted to paint my fireplace, but I feel like that feels very permanent, and I am scared to paint it matte black.
On the fireplace.
Yes, but the look of it is very pretty when I see it in photos. So black, black paint, black windows possibly, honeycomb tile. Love a good honeycomb tile.
Rose gold
Hardware.
Finishes,
hardware,
yes.
because that was very in, but I feel like it was only in for like 2 seasons.
You're probably not wrong.
Or even my suggestion to Katie about painting just the island cabinets. Is that a bad idea? Because that might be a fad. So what do you think about these?
I think that's been around. I mean, oftentimes you'll find the island is its kind of own anchor piece. And so, I mean, that we've been doing for decades, honestly.
Okay.
But oftentimes what that might be is even just a different wood tone than the rest of the cabinets, but it could be a different paint than the rest of the cabinets. And that it's something that you can change too, and it's just an island. It's not like you have as big of a commitment if you paint it and you paint it green now and in 10 years you hate the green, it's paint. You can always repaint it. So, and that's the thing that I always think, don't be afraid with paint. I mean, on cabinet, you want to make sure I always suggest have a professional paint your cabinets. Don't do those yourself. But you can definitely change it more economically than, replacing all of the cabinets.
Right. Or tile.
Yes. With painting your fireplace, I think the bigger decision is changing from a natural brick to a painted finish. Because again, you can change the color down the road, but just are you always going to want it to be painted? Because once you make that decision, you're probably never going back to the brick.
Oh, there are brick people that will rip you apart if you paint brick.
Yeah,
I do know that too.
Yes.
The brick lovers are like,
how dare.
I know.
How dare. Well, it's interesting too from the real estate side because, obviously we see the trends and it's like, okay, this house hasn't been updated since the 50s or this hasn't been updated since whenever. But all of those trends are coming back around. Where like the
100%.
mid-century modern is so coming back around.
Yes.
And I'm obsessed with it. And I'll show a house and, late 50s are my favorite houses.
Right.
Everybody that I have ever shown a house to knows I love a late 50s house. And they're like, oh, but it's like, it needs fully updated. And I'm like, no. Don't touch it. It's all in. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Even leave the pink tub.
Yeah.
Like we're leaving
Oh,
it.
that is too far.
Okay,
Can
is
you
that
stop?
leave the pink tub?
Somebody email us at notyourmothershousingmarket@gmail.com because I have pink tubs and pink toilets.
Okay, but do you agree that people? Like,
I will tell
Monica.
you, you do a gorgeous turquoise background wallpaper with some floral design that has a touch of pink in it with a pink tub. Super pretty.
and super in. Not that that's that
so there
important.
are ways.
I do believe it could be pretty. I just don't know if it's in.
It's in. Okay, is it in?
It all depends on the house, right? So that gets back to the architecture that I think you have to consider. You have to consider the home, the style of the architecture, independent of the trends.
Okay.
If
Okay.
everything is following
Okay.
every trend that comes along, it's not necessarily good design.
Right.
You're trying to bring too many things in
right.
that don't fit the style of the home.
True.
I've worked with clients in the past that want to take a style and superimpose that into a house that is so contrary, you can't ever mesh them.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I do always think you have to think about that. I will say though, and I find it as I get older, it's harder when you've lived those trends and now you see them coming back and you think, oh my gosh, I can't
think that's
do this.
me with clothes right now. I'm like, okay, we're really doing flare jeans again. Like, really? I can't, and I won't, and I'm not.
And then you just need a young daughter to say, yes, Mom, you look great.
Right.
Oh, okay, maybe I do. I'll wear them.
Well, the biggest compliment I ever got.
It's more the practicality. I don't want the back of my legs to be
all
wet.
wet.
Oh, we lived that. I'm over it, and I'm not going back.
Though, with the trends, because they do update slightly. So I feel like now with the flare jeans, the trend is for them to be a little bit shorter and hit your leg at a little slightly different
You just
part.
need a good tailor. That's all you need.
Maybe.
Maybe, but I don't want to go back to the flare jeans. My daughter's only 6, so I'm not taking her fashion advice yet.
Oh, yeah. Wait a
But
few
I'm
years.
sure it'll come.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about black windows? And
I love
honeycomb
black
tile?
windows. Love hexagon tile.
that's a different
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. I think it's one of those things that the black windows, like new construction or even doing a remodel, they are expensive. Significantly more expensive than your typical white windows.
Okay.
But there are some interesting things that you can do. Like some of them are black clad on the outside and white clad on the inside. So sometimes that can be a cost reduction. And so there's some things like that you can do. The black, I think, tends to have a little bit more of that modern feel, maybe even tending a little more commercial. And that's kind of where it came from the beginning. But it can look really great, and especially, some of those the modern farmhouse styles with the black windows. It's a perfect meld of
I feel like black doors are really in right now, too.
Yes.
The black doors, which they do look very nice. My house is so, oh my gosh, so boring. I'm like, oh, I wish I could do these things. Get the husband on board.
Right.
So, like I was saying, where me personally, when I'm showing homes, and I have to really work hard to keep my opinion out of everything.
Oh, right.
So, I walk into a late 50s home, and I'm obsessed with it, and I think they should keep the pink bathtub, and I think that they should, leave the whatever it is, the wood paneling. I'm like, no, wood paneling's in, which I will say to them, but then I won't say anything else. And I probably will say, I love the pink bathtub, but then I won't say anything else. But I do have to keep my opinion out of it, and it's like, I'm not trying to, and also it's the wrong way to go about it.
Right.
For me to be like, oh, no. Like,
You have to buy this house.
Good, this house is bad.
Yeah.
This is what you should do in this house, whatever. Because it does not matter. My opinion so much does not matter in the process.
Yeah, you need it to
I always
fit
keep
them.
that in mind. So do you ever struggle with that when you're like, I know you're picking this, and it's like, I would not pick this at all, but like...
There's always going to be those times. And I always try and tell people, I think the best design is the house that really reflects the homeowner, that reflects their style, their taste. But there are going to be things that just in terms of general design ideals,
Like the science behind it,
that you're always going to have to kind of fit into those things. And there are things that, for sure, I am not going to like the taste of all of their artwork. That's never going to happen. But there are ways that you can kind of position things. You can make it have the best impact as possible. And if it's something that they love, then we will try and make it work. There are times when there are some things that are just maybe, in my opinion, poor taste, and we just try and put those in less visible areas. So, there's things like that we all have our tricks, right?
I want to incorporate that phrase just into like my daily life, even if it doesnn't have things to do with design. I'm going to say, in my opinion, I believe that might be in poor taste.
Well, and they're
I don't think she probably
No, I'm just
that.
saying, like, you said it so nice and refreshing. I want to start trying to say that.
Well, and people do rely on me too, right? To be honest and give that feedback. Would you really do this? Well, I think it would be better if we put it here. So there's always things that you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be offensive, but to say, really probably this is gonna not gonna pull off quite as well if we use whatever the thing might be that's objectionable.
I'm envisioning like a husband with like a giant stuffed moose head, and the wife's like, "Please help me tell him this needs to go somewhere else than the living room."
That might be in poor taste.
This would look better in your office.
Yes.
That's how we. Yeah.
There's always ways. We can always compromise. I'm always big into compromise. Yeah, we have to compromise. So.
Okay, so what are some fun trends you're seeing now and things that maybe you're like, oh, it's kind of like the gray floors where it's like, these are probably going to be out in the next few years. Can you give us some inside track on that?
The thing that I think is the most surprising and maybe jarring to me, because I'm a child of the 80s, is the 80s styles are coming back right now. The pinks, the mint greens.
The see-through tables. Yes.
The barrel arches on furniture, on walls, there's a number of those things where, and it's that super steep, almost like kind of has that Art Deco sort of vibe to it, but very steep arches, which those are hard. It's hard when you start seeing some of those things come back. Yeah. And yet I will kind of force myself to immerse myself in it, try and find things that I think are good about that style. And so just so that I can get buy-in again, because you can have that initial, no way, I can't believe they are doing this now.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh, okay, but that does look good.
We can dabble a little over here.
So there's things that, because you have those clients that are they're gonna have that taste that we're gonna have to try and work within and make it again something that fits their style. And so that would.
And makes it a little more modern. But I do think it's interesting, like you said, the 80s, because, I'm still stuck in, I think, 60s style is where we should all be living right now. But I think a big part of it, too, is kind of like the thrifting culture that's happening.
Yes.
Where thrifting is becoming such a...
Upcycling.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the thing to do. So then I'll see, thrift hauls and someone finds, a black Jaguar, and they're like, oh, must have this in my home.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, my brother had that in 1994.
Right.
Little remnants of the 80s.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it is interesting.
Or the 70s couches with the bright print on it. I'm shocked that people our age are wanting these fabric printed upholstered couches, and they're all the rage right now.
But it is interesting, like you said, because
With the wood paneling.
That is my next question, and I cannot wait, so stay tuned. But one thing I do want to say real quick is kind of the talk about trends, because like we talked about, clothing trend cycles have sped up so much. Home decor trend cycles have sped up so much. And as you get a little bit older and you see that first trend cycle repeat, it is very jarring.
It is.
It really makes you feel your age.
Yeah,
first of all.
100%.
But also it kind of makes you realize that, again, you don't have to stay on trend, because you realize that all of these things are going to fall out of fashion.
Yeah.
So you don't feel the immense pressure to stay on trend, because you're like, this is going to be cool right now, and then it's not going to be. And if I don't like it, I don't need to buy into it, or I don't need to stay on top of it, because the stuff I like is also going to be in trend again someday.
Right.
Yes. It's made me personally curious to figure out what my personal style is. I do have a little bit of a personal style, but I don't like a lot of the trends that come up. And I thought, no, I just need to figure out what that is with home decor, fashion, and just go for it and not try to be on trend.
Yeah, exactly. Personal style for design, for your home design. Like you said, it should be a reflection of your personal style.
Yeah.
Okay, with that being said, we're getting down to the big question of the day.
Here it is.
Is wood paneling coming back in? This is exactly what I said to Gabby. First of all, I said wood paneling is back in. But then I did say wood paneling is coming back in, and I predicted within the next 5 years, people will be potentially even building new construction houses with, the rebranded wood paneling. People will be purchasing it at, Home Depot, whatever, to put into their remodels.
So before you answer, let's define what we believe wood paneling is. So what is it not? It is not shiplap. It is not B-board.
No, it's not like the big, huge, long, 6-foot long pieces that are just stuck to the wall in place of plywood.
And so
whatever.
when I envision wood paneling, I envision the oak color wood finish that was very popular in the 60s and 70s. Okay, right? That is what I'm thinking. I am not discussing...
With the lines down it.
Yes, the beveled in lines.
Yes.
What I'm not discussing is a good, nice good
is
wood accent wall. That is not what we're saying.
She is trying to disclude so much from this definition.
No, time out. Not exclude. Okay, I think this is a fair exclusion.
Okay.
Right now it is on trend to do a 1x1 wood slats and then have them be equal measurements apart from each other.
So you're saying that there's something in between them?
There's nothing in between them. Maybe you paint this wall back here black, and then you stain these wood slats and you adhere them to the wall maybe an inch apart.
How is that not wood paneling? It's panels
because
of wood.
Because it's not a panel.
It's panels of wood.
It's
not
a
1-inch panel.
It's
Katie, a 1-inch panel.
That's not a panel. What's the word for that? A 1x1.
Is it a panel?
The battens? Those would be batten strips. You could use batten strips that way.
It's like a stick of wood, Katie. It's not.
It's like a panel.
It's a stick, not a panel. No, a stick is a stick is.
Okay,
a
fine.
Panel is flat.
Monica, would you weigh in?
Stick or panel?
On your thoughts?
Yeah, this is
about wood paneling in general. This is a hot button topic on Not Your
is.
Mother's Housing Market.
I think when you first ask the question, I think each person is going to have their own idea of what wood paneling is.
Okay.
So I think the definition is super important. When you asked me that the other day, immediately my thought was wood paneling has always been in and will continue to always be in because it's been around forever. But I think I have a much broader definition of wood paneling.
Oh, so she believes what you are talking about is wood paneling. Okay.
So I would say I tend to kind of categorize even an accent wall, even batten strips, any form of wood that's being applied to a wall that is paneled in some way, shape, or form. It could be painted, it could be stained, it could be...
That is not what this...
But
I agree with what you're saying.
That's just my definition.
I think what you're talking about is I'm considering wood paneling.
I think like how the word tambour, is that how you said it?
Yes,
Wood paneling is being rebranded into a modern item, and one of the names is tambour.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking is wood paneling.
Yes.
So is that coming back into...
I think it's a very specific niche look.
Okay.
I don't know that I would say that that's going to be every home in America.
Okay.
Number one, I think it's going to be pretty expensive. And
because
cost
it's so
is
nice
always...
and fancy.
Yeah. But
because it's a fast trend and it's fast fashion and it will be out soon.
No. Those are usually cheap.
Well, clothing.
And there will probably be some version or some knockoff of that. But I think if that's what we're talking about, I guess I would say yes. In fact, there's a new construction house I just recently consulted on, and we were doing some of that in their bathroom. So, but it was cool.
It is cool.
But
very
the cleaning, who wants to clean wood paneling in their bathroom?
It's on the outside
down.
of their sauna. It's
okay, because they have a sauna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of like nautically, I would say.
Well, it depends. In this particular case, they were a lot more modern.
Okay.
And so it was just that streamlined, the very clean lines.
And I could see that with more of a spa look, for sure. Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking like wood paneling in your living room.
Right. And that's where I think it is more of that niche look. I don't know that we're going to start to see that natural wood tone. I mean, who knows? Maybe we are.
Covered wall to wall.
Yeah, covered
as
wall
it used
to wall.
to be.
But I think that there are going to be, I think there always are going to be those areas where you're going to find it that people like it. They love wood and they want. I do always think, me personally, it can be a bit overdone to have so much wood everywhere.
Yes.
So I don't know that I personally would recommend.
It might be in poor taste.
Might be a little overdone, yeah.
Okay, good. So we're both semi-right.
Yeah, I guess we're both half right.
But I would say I'm more right, but...
I wouldn't go that far, but maybe.
Okay.
It is coming into fashion. I'm shocked that someone wanted to put it in still a bathroom. That sounds like a nightmare.
No, it's cool. It's cool. And the darker, the lighter, which that's another trend, is like light woods are coming back.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Which I love the light woods.
Yeah, they've been around a while, and they are definitely, all the rage.
Okay, so this is another question. Speaking of like been in a while, I feel like you guys are on the pulse of the trends. You know what I mean? Like you're immersed in it. You're seeing it every day. You're doing the research.
Right.
You're staying on top of things. How long typically? I was just thinking about this earlier. How long typically from like when you start seeing it becoming a thing to like then it trickles down to like even people that are like doing their own remodels at Home Depot are seeing it?
Good question.
Yeah, and it does seem like it's interesting because oftentimes, because we have reps that come in all the time.
Okay.
So manufacturers reps that will come in bringing us new hardwood flooring samples, new countertops, whatever the case may be. And they oftentimes will bring things in and they'll start out on the East Coast, for example. And this is a super popular item on the East Coast. And a lot of times my business partner and I will be oohing and awing over it and going, oh, this is really cool. This is great. And they'll often say that it takes about 10 years for it to get to the West Coast.
Wow.
That it can take a really long time.
Yes.
That is really
And
interesting.
the West Coast tends to have, because we are such that Northwestern vibe, the natural, and we have a different climate, right? We have a lot of gray days. We have a lot of times seeing some of those trends, they don't always fit. They don't always fit over here because, in fact, the gray was kind of, people were hesitant to it I can't do gray.
See, I was going to say the pink bathtubs that people are going to be like, this is not Miami Vice. Like, we're not coming, like, we're not doing pink.
That's probably true too.
Yeah. So it depends on what it is. I would say probably 5 years might be even maybe, because you'll start to see more things, I think, with, folks on Instagram and following different people that are, on the West Coast in
Emma
California
Chamberlain.
or,
Where I get
New
all my
York,
design
or-
info from. And she did a bunch of wood paneling in her house. So I'm just saying that's where I'm getting my intel from.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, I didn't say you were wrong.
No, I'm just joking. But yeah, it is interesting, like you
Yeah.
said, because people are seeing more inspo from different parts of the country. It is funny that you say that
Maybe
about the
speeding
East
that
Coast,
up a
though.
bit.
Yeah.
My sister's like 20 years older than I am. We're 20 years apart. And she lives in the Boston area. She's lived in the Boston area basically the entire time I've been alive.
Right.
And she was always, my cool older sister,
Yeah.
sent me the cool things. And she would send me things and she'd be like, this is very cool in Boston.
Yeah.
I bet no one's going to have it in Washington. So I always got like the trendy things from her
Right.
from the East Coast.
Yeah.
So that was totally even just like in own my little stuff.
See, I have the reverse story. My older sister is about 12 years older than me. She lives in Iowa, always has since I've grown up. And she was and still is always my cool older sister. But she would come visit me out here when we're adult women. And we would go shopping together and she'd buy something and take it back to Iowa. And people would look at her with confusion and go like, what are you wearing?
That's
Why are
because
you
it's
dressed like a
East
teenager?
Coast, West Coast, Midwest.
Yes. Yeah. So that's always a fun little
That is funny.
thing
That
she
is funny.
hears.
So, okay. So just, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. I was going to go because we were talking about trends.
Yes, go for it.
Tips and tricks to making your home beautiful and timeless.
I always try to tell people, do as much as you can with the budget that you can at the time. So picking quality finishes over things that are maybe less expensive and tend to not last as long. So if you can afford a real hardwood floor over a laminate or over an LVP, I'm always going to say go for the natural because they tend to be more timeless.
Okay.
The ones that look more manufactured, those are the ones that you tend to, they style out quicker.
Okay.
If you think about some of the houses on the Old West Side, right?
Right.
Hardwood floors, maybe marble, or natural stone fireplaces, maybe brick, maybe some of those kind of inherent details. Those things transcend time because they are natural quality finishes, and it can have a variety of color, it can have a variety of even style variation, but try and kind of pick those things that are going to be as timeless as possible. And if you don't have that kind of a budget, make your selections along the lines of the most natural looking, the ones that look the most realistic. I think where people get in trouble is when they get a little bit too glitzy, a little bit too flashy. They fall in love with something, some cobalt blue glass tile that, that's probably not going to be a long-term finish. And so I always kind of recommend trying to pick those more timeless things, and then allowing your personality or those color preferences in the things that can be changed: pillows, bedding, paint colors. Like if you really want something that's more vibrant, great, let's do a whole wall of cobalt. You know, let's not do it in the finishes that you're going to have to rip apart your whole wall to pull it out.
That makes
Let's
sense.
not have a blue marble or a
Right.
blue
Yes.
stone.
Yes.
Right.
Let's do a blue wall.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
unless you love it and you know that is just your style, and then you've got the budget to be able to change it. I mean, that's another story.
You've got the
but-
budget
like
to be
you
able to
said-
change it before you sell your home.
Yeah.
And a touch of it. We're not going to carry that bright cobalt blue
Right.
into every single
Everything.
point of the design.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. So, so for our viewers on Not Your Mother's Housing Market, if someone is maybe feeling like they do kind of have those golden handcuffs, they're going to be staying in this home a little bit longer than they previously planned on, but maybe they don't have the budget to change out the floors or they don't have the budget to do those things. What are some small, easy tweaks to get people feeling a little bit more like their spaces themselves?
Okay, so the things that I would suggest. So if they're gonna stay there a little bit longer, they don't want to put a lot of money into it. I think I would probably go for the things that you can take with you, right?
Okay.
So maybe that's a new sofa. Maybe that's, redoing all of your living room furniture, or, something like that you know you can take with you.
Mirrors.
Mirrors, artwork, even
An area rug. like you
area
discussed
rugs for
earlier.
sure. Any of those kinds of things that I think you could take with you, but they do give you that sense of, oh, this feels new. This doesn't feel like the old house. This feels like I can put a little bit of investment into something that makes this feel different, and yet I'm not going to be leaving it behind if we end up moving it, even down the road or whatever. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
It
my
was
pleasure.
so much fun. Our first guest.
Yeah, thanks
And
for
it
having me.
could not have been better.
And can you tell our viewers how to reach you? So if
Yes.
they do
Where
want
can they
to
find
spruce
you?
their home up and make it feel more like themselves, how can we get a hold of you?
Yeah, so we are, we're Link Design Group, and we are on the corner of 14th and Florida.
Right next to Gabby.
Yep, and we are in the Davis Professional Building, so the brick building right there, right behind Renewal City Church or the Roxy Theater. We share that alleyway. And yeah, we are our website. You can check out our website, linkdesigngroup.com. And we have a great front of house person, Amanda, if you want to give a call and just ask her about how our services work. She's at 360-232-8591. So,
Yeah.
Awesome. Give Amanda
Thank
a
you
call.
so much.
Yeah.
Just touched the microphone. Sorry about that, Wayne. Thank you
Wayne.
again, Monica Nichols,
My
for
pleasure.
coming on
Yeah,
Linked
super
Design
fun.
Group
Thanks for having
here
me.
in Longview. And
Yes.
if you have any questions for us or if you want to reach out to us, again, feel free to email us at notyourmothershousingmarket@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Not Your Mother's Housing Market, and we will see you in the next one.
Yes. Have a great week, everybody.